welcome back. We are four struggling
Oh.
filmmakers. My name's Emma. Joined with me is James.
I wasn't prepared.
Jimmy.
Hello, sunshines.
And Noah.
Hello.
Hello. Any recommendations this week? Let's get straight in.
I watched for the first time in my life ever Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
When did you watch that?
I watched this Monday night after half a bottle of wine, or was it Sunday night?
Kicked off the Disney revolution.
The mini disco, the mini Disney marathon that consisted only of that and bits of Fantasia and red wine. Only 83 minutes, which is always a plus. Amazing characters, great writing, surprisingly strong female character in parts for 1936. There are some bits where it's waiting for a prince, but also bits where she's like, "You seven dwarfs are going to do what I say," which is nice.
But she is also looking after them like a mother.
Taking advantage of these little men. That's not very nice.
Yeah, it's to be fair, she does take advantage of them.
She does literally walk into their house and say, "I'm living here now." And
This is
like,
my squatter's rights. Yeah,
like,
I think so.
That's all right.
Does anyone else have anything?
David Firth's Cream from YouTube. That's not a film, I don't think.
It's not a film, but it's great.
It's a short film.
David Firth's Creed.
What?
David Firth, you know the salad fingers man.
Oh God! Oh.
You not watched it?
Cree is a very good video. It's
It
funny.
is. It's
Very
not
good.
subtle, but it's very good.
Interesting. Very nice. Anything else?
Oh, okay. We're not allowed to talk about what we want to talk about.
Yeah, go on. No, go on. I thought that was you finishing. Tell us about Cream.
Fine.
You're all right. You're done, James.
I watched a horror film. It is now one of my favourite horror films. It's John Carpenter's The Fog.
It's not even John
Great.
Carpenter's best.
It is John Carpenter's best.
Is that the one about the killer fog?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is really good,
Spooky
though.
ghost people in the fog.
Spooky Ghost Pirates, aren't they?
Spooky ghost pirates in the fog.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's not Halloween or The Thing, no, is it?
Yeah, I know it's better, isn't it?
It's got more going on than Halloween. Not The Thing.
Visually, it's definitely visually his best.
Is that with Tom Atkins? Yeah.
You're asking me like I know, man.
Tom Atkins is definitely in it.
Maybe he is.
It's
Maybe
not
he
as
is.
good as They Live, though, is it?
Nah, it's better.
My recommendation is something we spoke about a couple of weeks ago. No, actually, more than a couple of months ago. I rewatched Little Monsters with Lupita Nyong'o.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
I thought it was great.
Oh.
It's marketed a bit weirdly because when I read the synopsis, I don't know if it was just because it Sky Cinema or whatever, but what it was marketed at is like a horror comedy. I wouldn't put it as a horror. It's got like horror aspects in terms of like zombies, but like it's not horror. It's more comedy. It hits the nails on the head on all the levels.
It's almost a rom-com, isn't it?
No, definitely. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. The rest of my family enjoyed it. It was funny, and it was after quite a long week, so just back on a film, and it was really nice. Yeah, I would definitely recommend it as a nice little chill film. It's got really good acting in it, and it's just so funny. So this is it's a bit different this week. We're not talking about our opinions. We're actually discussing something different.
So yeah, this week we are talking about not our favourite films, but our parents' favourite films. So mums and our dads, we had a chat with them, talked about what's your favourite film? Why do you like those films?
Well,
And now we're going to relay their thoughts to you because they
we
didn't
know
want to
them.
be on the podcast. And we're the stars of the show. So we get to talk about it.
Yeah, a bit different. We thought we'd move away from our own opinions, and we thought by asking our parents, maybe we'd get a good range of films to talk about. So we're just going to put them in.
What do we want to start with? Do you want to start with my mum's favourite film or my dad's favourite film?
Let's start with your mother.
Right, start with my mum's favourite film. My mum's favourite film is Dirty Dancing.
Good choice.
Classic film from, I can't remember the year. It's a very good stuff.
87.
And no, is it 87?
2003.
No, it was
Pretty
87.
sure.
I do remember. Yeah.
Thank you.
So it's a very brief synopsis to those of you who don't know what Dirty Dancing is. So there's this girl called Baby, Frances Houseman is a proper name. She's on a vacation with a family at like a Catskills resort, and she meets a dance instructor called Johnny Castle, and he's all, sexy, and then they fall in love, and that's the movie, and then they dance at the end.
And don't forget the lift.
Yeah, all right, I'm getting to that.
Nobody puts Baby in the corner.
Right. What does my mum like, Dirty Dancing? One would argue that it's one of the most iconic films of the 80s. So someone could have brought it up in the
No one
screendraft.
would argue that.
Even though it's, it's not my kind of film. I appreciated like its message. Like I think it has a solid story to it. It's got good soundtrack for like 80s goodness. But like the pacing and too many montages and stuff. But that's about my thoughts. What did my mum think? She says it came out when she was 18, and I think that's like the kind of ideal age for this film, because it's like you're either a young girl or like a 40-year-old woman, and that is the two categories of people who watch Dirty Dancing and think it's a good film. She says that the music makes the movie, basically. It's full of memorable songs and the moments of dancing like paired together that really, bring it all together into like an enjoyable experience. You got Hungry Eyes. Hungry Eyes. I love you doing again. That one.
Karaoke.
And then you got Hey Baby. Who wants to sing that one?
But we all know the last one.
And then the final one, the Oscar winning I Had the Time of My Life.
Oscar winning?
Reminds me of the cheese room in Oceana.
Yeah, it does a little bit, doesn't it?
The cheese room.
But like as James said, it makes the movie because
It does.
everyone wants to sing.
Yeah. It needed that finale to like keep it in the minds of people, because like throughout the entire film, most of the time, if you've seen it before, if you know anything about the film, you're waiting for that bit. That's the one thing you're like, oh, where's the song? Where's the song? And then the song comes at the end, and it's like the best bit of the movie.
Who's it by, the song?
That one singer.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Sure.
The one that sings "I'm high, it's all my
There's
life."
two people, isn't it? It's two people
Okay.
singing. There's one woman and one man. I can't remember either of them.
It's a duet.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
much
It's
like
Bob
the
Dylan.
dance itself.
Have you ever listened to it, Jimmy?
Yeah, but I only ever hear the woman.
It's Bob Dylan.
How can you not hear the
and-
man? He's got like the lowest voice.
Oh, no, you did, right? You did. You did.
Hey, there it is.
I remember.
So what else does my mum say? She says it's a rewatchable film. It has a good message. She mentioned that like the aspects of classism in it are actually really good. And that's something I didn't really consider. Like there's definite like it's obviously you got the big Catskills resort and you got the dirty dancers, as it were, down below, and it's like the upper class versus lower class. And then you've got the whole subplot about the abortion, which when I first saw it, I wasn't expecting at all, which is like a very prominent point in the film where that's where a lot of the drama comes from, aside from like the main romance subplot, main plot even. It says great iconic lines. Of course, nobody puts a baby in the corner, and I carried a watermelon, and probably some others that I'm forgetting because I watched this film like 2 years ago.
I carried a watermelon.
Yeah, that is apparently an iconic line of the film.
Yeah, I definitely hear that like at least twice a day.
Yeah, of course.
I carry the watermelon.
Yeah.
I carried a watermelon.
That's the line.
Right, okay, so let me give you context to the line.
I've not seen the
So,
film.
when Baby, which is the main character, she is taken by, I think, her cousin or something. I can't remember specifics, but she gets taken to the Dirty Dancing area by him because she carried a watermelon there, and there is where she meets Patrick Swayze. And then he's like, "Hi, Patrick Swayze," and he's like, "How did you get here?" And she was like, I carried a watermelon. And then that's it.
That did absolutely nothing to clarify anything for me. But
Why was she? I've forgotten. Why was she carrying a watermelon to begin with?
Because dirty dancers like watermelon. Anywho, moving on.
I'm
She
still confused. But
yeah. Sorry, that was a very weird tangent.
I'm confused
So,
about watermelon.
She said the film is swayed by Swayze and Grey, which are the two leads.
Hey.
Hey, swayed by Swayze. And basically they make the film because of their chemistry. And apparently, I looked it up, apparently they hated each other, like behind the scenes, like they couldn't get on at all.
Well, it's funny because a lot of like actors and that have that hate relationship, and then it doesn't come across on the screen. But
No,
because they
not
have
at
that
all.
passion, like that
Yeah.
hatred, like it works. Sometimes you just don't get on with your colleagues.
Yeah,
I
it's a good
suppose
thing.
that's the difference between being a good actor and a bad actor, is that you can just pretend that you like them.
I also asked my mum what she thought of other similar dance films of the 80s. So I asked her about Flashdance, and she
The
said
best
it was
one.
all right. And I asked her about Footloose, and I'm going to give you a direct quote from my mum about Footloose. Fuck off. I hate Footloose. He's a knob.
Shall we move on to James's dad?
Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on. My dad's favourite film. My dad's favourite
We
film
love your
is,
dad.
after much
His dad
deliberation
jokes.
and talking, is Cool Hand Luke. Brief synopsis about Cool Hand Luke is based on the book of the same name. I didn't even know it was based on a book. Apparently it was. It's about a rebel called Luke, who is arrested after cutting parking meters on a drunken night and is sentenced to a Florida prison on a chain gang, basically.
Yeah, he's Florida
All
man.
about him rebelling against the system.
What's his problem, James?
What we have here is a failure to communicate.
Bingo. This
Bingo.
might be a good time to explain your background.
Oh yes, of course. To those who enjoy looking at the backgrounds of every time I do an episode, they kind of relate to what I'm talking about. This week is Dirty Dancing. You know, I carried a watermelon.
I carried a watermelon.
Yeah. So you got watermelon, and one of the most important scenes of Cool Hand Luke showing his stand-up nation is like, I can take a challenge. He's challenged to eat 50 eggs consecutively within an hour. And it's a very intense scene. It's a very, very good scene where he just eats a bunch of eggs.
Were they like boiled eggs like
They're
that?
hard-boiled. All hard-boiled.
They are so filling.
Did
exactly.
did
He has
Newman
to be
do it for
fitty.
real?
Yeah, and then he eats them all, and then he does like a Christ figure on the table.
Did Newman do it?
I can't remember if he did or not. If he did, then he would have definitely been sick.
He would have definitely died.
He would have died. How did he die?
Or turned into a chicken.
Eggs.
Like, what
I think
is
the real question about James's background is who on earth is eating watermelon
Yeah, who is eating
eggs
this?
for breakfast?
Who's eating watermelon eggs at the same time? Some messed up geezer. The things I find on Google Images.
Watermelon trigger.
So the real question, why does your dad like it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I asked my dad that exact question, and his first thought was, "It's good."
A man of many words.
Yes, indeed. So then I had to pry some more information out of him. And he said that he basically likes that genre of movie. So when he was growing up, he watched like The Great Escape. He watched Escape from Alcatraz, Brubaker,
These are very-
Papillon. There's
These are
another
very
one.
dad films, aren't
Yeah,
they?
they are all very dad films. He said he likes those kinds of films because it shows the rougher side of the prison system in America and how messed up it is, basically.
He'd like
Because that's the side you don't usually see as much, because it's just sort of
Yeah.
like, oh, people are in prison and you forget about them. But here it kind of
I recommend him a film called All Starred Up.
all start up.
Yeah, Starred Up. Sorry.
Oh, just start up. All
Jack
right.
O'Connell.
Yes.
Yeah. I will
Pretty
recommend
tough
it.
watch, but prison drama.
Yeah.
Jack O'Connell and
Ben Mendelsohn.
Ben Mendelsohn.
Oh, Ben Mendelsohn, what actor? I love him. The film, it came out in like, oh God, I should have gotten the year.
68.
Yes.
Or 67 maybe.
Yeah. It came out back then, and he says it still stands up today through its like pure brutality. Like there's some really
Ooh.
rough stuff in that film. There's a whole scene where he keeps on getting knocked down and getting back up, and you can see him like
I get
losing
knocked
all of his
down.
energy.
But I get back up again.
James, why is it an important film? Precisely for that reason.
You tell me, Jimmy. Go on. You're
It's
busting
one-
to say it.
It's one of the earliest new Hollywood films, isn't it?
Is it really?
In
Nah,
1967.
Bonnie and Clyde.
I said one of.
He didn't say. Yeah, Bonnie and Clyde. Obviously, we know as a.
Yeah, it came out the same year as
Midnight
Bonnie and
Cowboy.
Clyde, though. They're both 67, and they're both showing things that you would not have shown a year previously. It's quite.
And a Hays Code.
Standing up against the man.
And it had Paul Newman in it.
Yeah, Paul Newman.
Did it?
Yeah. There's
And
a Paul Newman
also-
film. He is the titular Cool Hand Luke.
Oscar-winning turn for
Someone Kennedy.
George Kennedy.
John
Yeah,
Kennedy.
that's
Best supporting actor. Yeah.
My dad says he likes the fact it's a potentially dreary subject because this is a bunch of people in prison that's held up by strong, bold characters with very good character actors. A lot of prison films, he says, don't really cut it and aren't that memorable.
You haven't even told us that Harry Dean Stanton's in it, mate.
Harry Dean Stanton's in it. That is
and
true.
Dennis Hopper.
What?
Yeah,
How old was Harry Dean Stanton in
he was
1967?
very young.
Only 60 years old or so. He's like 50 in Alien
Oh.
from 1979.
I can't remember how old he was. He has a very small face because you know Harry Dean
He's
Stanton
old.
has a very defined, like, pointed head, kind of.
Yeah. He was
He
born
doesn't
about,
have that there. It's very little.
I'm not joking. I think he was born about 1925, so he's probably already in his mid
Wow.
30s.
He's not that old.
He is. He's dead, mate. He died at
I
100.
know he
last year.
died, but I don't think he was that old.
Made it to 100. Oh, good job.
Who?
look, Harry Dean Stanton,
I don't think he was that old, was he?
born 1926.
He was 1 year out.
Yeah, he was quite old.
He was 91 when he died, like 4 years ago.
What a life.
91 wasn't 4 years ago.
No,
Right, anything else?
so probably to round up my dad's thoughts on Cool Hand Luke. He likes films about adversity, so like good and evil, very straightforward. He doesn't like big scale sci-fi. He says he enjoys it just as a watch, but the films that he really invests in are like the small scale focused stories, which is why like prison films are kind of his favorite, because they're focused in one location a lot of the time. He said another film that he enjoys, which I watched with him ages ago, which is another film with very strong characters and a very simple situation against good and evil, is a Deliverance.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, it's a tough watch.
With Ned Beatty.
Your parents, those are two kind of different films. Is there like a genre your parents like settle on? Because obviously they watch films together, but like, is it something more one-sided or?
My parents, I'd say they don't necessarily watch as much film together as I watch films myself. I just kind of go off and do whatever. But they're more focused on like series, like BBC series. They sit down and watch a lot of those. And I think that's because my mum can kind of just, because she has very I'm not actually, I don't know if I'm going to say that. I'm going to want to slight my mum. A running joke in our family is my mum has like 4 films that she really likes and always says that she really likes. It's Dirty Dancing, National Velvet, International Velvet, and The Sound of Music.
Oh, The Sound of Music comes on every like the run up to Christmas. I sit and watch it every year without fail. It's good.
Wow.
Yeah. She almost recommended it to me this week, but it's like 3 hours. So I was like,
yeah, it's quite long to be fair,
Why
and it is
so
a lot of musical stuff.
But
why is it so long?
I think
it's a lot to get through.
I think the important question is, James, though, if you had to pick one or the other, Dirty Dancing, Cool Hand Luke.
Let's have a think. I think if I had the decision of watching Dirty Dancing or Cool Hand Luke, I'd probably choose Cool Hand Luke.
I'm not shocked whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
No.
if you had to, like, if it was either your mum or your dad picking the film, who are you likely to sit down and watch it with? So your mum's picked a film and your dad's picked a film. Who's more likely to have the film that's more your taste?
Probably my
That's
dad.
a good question.
It is more likely to be my dad, because as I said, my mum just watches the film she likes over and over again.
No, fair enough.
I'm usually the one to like sit down and watch films with her, rather than her picking one and me sitting.
That's nice.
And watching with her. So like as I mentioned, like about a week ago.
Yeah,
we watched Amelie together.
Amelie, yeah.
Because I sat down and watched that with her, and she really enjoyed it.
That was a lovely little insight into the Harrison household. So
I love that house.
it's a very nice house, to be fair.
Love that house.
Jimmy's been
I like
outside
the
the house now. That's the closest he's been.
I've been up to the porch, yeah.
I like the dog.
And I'd keep it that way if I was you, James.
Yeah, most people do.
Don't let Jimmy in.
So moving over to my household. So it was pretty easy to get an answer from my dad. So I'll start with him and then I'll explain why it was so difficult to get an answer from my mum. So my dad is very much into like the sci-fi genre. And at first guess, I thought he was going to pick one of the Star Trek films because he like absolutely loves Star Trek. But he actually chose Star Wars, A New Hope, which is there's actually a cute reason as to why, and I'll explain that. But so if you've been living under a rock for the last many years, then let me just explain Star Wars, A New Hope. So Princess Leia are not really our protagonist, but I guess there's multiple protagonists in Star Wars. She's basically been captured by the evil man, Darth Vader, Man in the Mask. You'll know him, you know him, I know him, we all know him. And basically she sends out a little thing like, help me, you're my only hope, or something like that. And it's up to Luke and Han Solo to go in and rescue her.
Kenobi.
And destroy the Galactic Empire's weapon.
No,
Big King. What?
That's not what happens.
That is what happens.
That is what happens.
No, she doesn't send for Luke and Han. She sends for Obi-Wan, Kenobi.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like it's not him that really. He doesn't really feature that much.
Oh, why? He trains Luke.
Let the poor girl finish.
We all know it. whatever. We know the names. Carrie Fisher. We all know Harrison Ford.
Who plays Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Mark Hamill, and the guy who plays Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, Alec Guinness.
Boo. Alec
I'm
McGuinness.
messing with you.
On
The
with the
Lost
show.
Beatles himself, Alec.
So yeah, 1977, directed by George Lucas. That's basically the gist of it. So the reason why my dad picked it is it was the first film that his dad took him to the cinema to go and see, and he remembers it very vividly. Of him going to the cinema with his dad for the very first time, watching this film, and he just said that when he saw it, just like it was something that he hadn't really seen before, apart from maybe outside of Star Trek, but it was the first proper like film that he'd seen this sort of dynamic and atmosphere from, and he absolutely loved it, and then went on to love most of the Star Wars afterwards. Big fan, and it's passed on to my oldest brother as well, who is a big fan of Star Wars. So it's a nice little bonding activity through
And you?
time. Yeah, sure.
Wow.
No, I like Star Wars, just not as much as maybe my dad and my brother. Like, I will sit and watch it, and I know basically most of what happens in all of them, and I enjoyed going to the cinema and seeing them. But if you ask me what happened in X, Y, and Z, I got other stuff on my mind. So yeah, I thought it was a nice little suggestion. But other films he likes are, my mind has just gone blank. Has that ever happened to you where you just like,
He just likes things beginning with Star.
yeah, Star Trek, Star Wars, and he's big into like is it an Amazon Prime series, The Expanse? He was a big fan of that one.
Thomas Jane.
Yeah, he loves the sci-fi genre, like, you know, Alien as well.
Terminator.
So, yeah, he really likes the Terminator as well. So
Has he seen Sean Connery's Outland?
Outland, I don't know, but I will put it towards him.
If he's not seen it, tell him it's High Noon in Space with Sean Connery.
Basically, now we're going to go to the complete polar opposite end of the spectrum.
Wait, we're going to go to a galaxy far, far away?
Oh, I suppose we are. Once upon a time in a galaxy far, far away, we are going to my mother. So my mum, bless her, she'll sit and watch film, no problem, but she's not like a big film fan. Like, and she's a midwife in the NHS, so she works long shifts. And she's quite tired. So whenever we put a film on, she does tend to fall asleep. So getting her favourite film was quite difficult, because she said, oh, I don't have a favourite film. I don't really watch films. I'm like, yeah, fair enough, but we have watched like millions of films. You've got to have a favourite. And then she went to my dad, she was like, Mark, what's my favourite film? And my dad was like, and he went through, he was like, oh, you really like Steven Seagal movies, you know, like Under Siege, Above the Law, Hard to Kill, and Marked for Death, which, brilliant. Fair enough. She really liked them. She really liked Indiana Jones was thrown around, but then she finally came up with something. And unfortunately, it wasn't a singular film. It's a trilogy. So she said she really liked the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Ooh. I suppose when you think about...
Oh, no.
When you think about trilogies, you either think Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, to be fair. So they're on the right lines, those two. This is a really well-known one, so if you don't know the Lord of the Rings, I'm shocked. But for those of you who don't, it's between 2001 and 2003, and then there's later the Hobbit trilogy, but we won't touch on that. Directed by Peter Jackson. Big fan of Peter Jackson. So basically it's 3 films following...
Little hairy people.
Basically, yeah. So little hairy people called
based off the book
called Hobbit. I'm getting there, and based off the book by J.R.R. Tolkien, not J.J.
J.J.
Tolkien. Yeah, I was going on that lines. Big big epic fantasy adventure. We're talking big budgets. We're talking sweeping helicopter shots across the landscape of New Zealand. It's an absolute beautiful trilogy, to be fair. There are some absolute wild shots. They are long, and obviously there's the director's cut as well. They are long films, but I don't think you really feel that you're watching these films for ages, because there's so much happening. There's about 1 million characters, all who are going through 1 million different things. We've got the one ring to rule them all. We got Bilbo Baggins, Frodo Baggins, Sam.
Mary.
That's it. It's just those three.
No, I just wanted to...
Gandalf.
The grey or the white wizard.
Yeah, Gandja.
And obviously we have the Eye of Sauron.
Yeah, big skin.
Watching over Middle
Yeah.
Earth.
So I asked my mum, why do you like this film? She went, good film.
So
Fair enough.
mum like.
Yeah, bless her. She's lovely woman. I'm a big fan. But Lord of the Rings, it was up there with one of her favourites.
Does she have a favourite character?
Do you have a favourite?
I'm not going to lie to you,
specific
Jimmy. I don't
film?
think she'd be able to name a single character. I don't know if that's a bit harsh, probably.
That's really funny.
She just loves, watching things.
Oh.
Why we got a fish tank, to be fair.
She's absorbing the world of Middle Earth rather than what's actually
Yeah, my mum is a real big fan of world stories.
Does she watch a lot of TV series?
Yeah, so we've watched as your parents do, the BBC ones. We're a big fan of Silent Witness. We tend to, when we watch a film, go for down the middle of a comedy or maybe a horror. They quite enjoyed watching the Exorcist films, I think it was.
Really?
Not like the original, because that's absolutely shocking.
Fair.
But
your mum likes horror?
Yeah, I'd say so.
See, my mum will not watch a horror film.
Same with mine. She will not touch
Yeah,
anything
same.
that even relates to horror.
You've got a good mum.
Thanks, I know. She's the best.
That's really cool. But Emma, you know what the big question is? Star Wars or Lord of the Rings? If you had to pick one, that's a
bigger
one.
question to ask.
That's a really tough one.
Because I'd sit and watch both, to be fair, and I've seen both multiple times. But I just think the Lord of the Rings has the edge. I'm all for fantasy. I'm a big fan of that genre, and just the magical worlds. That's why I love Twilight so much.
So does Mark Commode, to be fair.
I'm shocked by that, but that's by the by.
I will say, if you're also big fans of fantasy out there, read a book by Jacqueline Furby and Claire Hines called I think it's just called Fantasy.
That was the Pullen household. Let's move over to the Bennett household.
That's a good segue, I think. Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Shit, what am I talking about? No, I didn't.
Parents' favourite films.
Yes. So Emma started with her dad and then her mum. James started with his mum, then dad.
Correct.
So I'll do the same.
No, do both at the same time.
I'll go back to the mum first. So yeah.
Okay.
So my mum is a bit like you, Emma. She's not a massive film fan. A bit like your mum, sorry, Emma. She's not a massive film fan.
I hate film.
she falls asleep through everything, but she also does actually like big budget things like Marvel. Big Marvel fan.
Doesn't everyone, though, to be fair?
Yeah, she collected the comics when she was young, so I think.
Oh, that's cute.
But she likes Lord of the Rings too, and she likes Star Trek because Chris Pine is nice to look at. I thought she was gonna pick. What did I think she was gonna pick? I really thought she was going to go for Lord of the Rings. So, but she didn't shock me. But she went for a film from the 70s called The Sting.
Whoa!
The second Paul Newman.
Another Paul Newman.
I know, right? Double Paul Newman. It's the second one. I think he was a big influence on people of. I was going to say mine and people our parents' age, but I think my parents might be slightly older.
And he was a handsome chap, wasn't he?
He was a very handsome chap. I don't mind admitting that. And obviously in this film, partnered with the equally handsome
Robert Redford.
In one of their...
And the equally sexy Robert Shaw.
Yes, yeah, very. It's a sexy film, to be fair. Yeah, so you've got this absolute powerhouse, powerhouse of a cast. I think it's one of their earliest pairings too, Robert Redford and Paul Newman. Basically, the plot. I've seen this film twice, so I'll try and say the plot. We know this usually goes well. Basically, Robert Redford is like a low-level con man, whereas Paul Newman is like a much more experienced and higher level con man, more with card games rather than actual cons. And they end up teaming together to rip off I think he's a criminal himself, isn't he, Robert Shaw in the film? Noah?
Yes.
Yeah. They pull this sting on Robert Shaw. But the clever thing about the film is throughout the whole film, you're being conned yourself, because you think you know what's going on, and just at the end, pajam, it all goes tits up. Also, you think, but maybe it doesn't. So I got my parents to write a little bit about why they like these films. So I'll tell you what my mum said. I told them to keep it brief. My mum did, bless her. She says, "The sting, because you're conned all the way through the film," in reference particularly to the ending. There's lots of twists and turns. It's a proper good thriller. Robert Redford and Paul Newman were a great team and bounced off of each other. No one can deny the chemistry between those two. They must have been friends in real life, right?
I would have thought so.
They hated each other and they bounced it off, like we mentioned earlier.
They're bloody brilliant, whatever the case may be. They just such great chemistry, so natural. Very charming, but kind of like Robert Redford's a bit rough and ready, and Paul Newman's a bit more suave and chic, and wow. My mum didn't write all that, but there you go. And the other thing she said is great writing and great acting for me, and I have to agree with that.
She's a man of good words.
A woman.
Sure.
You just called his mum a man.
You did, but that's fine.
It happens all the time.
I watched this film recently, and I was annoyingly only like half paying attention. I just watched it during the day, and it got to the end, and I was like, "Shit, that was bloody amazing! I should have paid proper attention to that." I think it is another quite long one. I want to say it's 2 hours or more, probably more. But yeah, I'll tell you a funny story about the sting before I move on to.
Oh yeah, go on then.
Yeah, it's a funny story. All the way through, it's obviously got the really memorable bit of music, the entertaining, like da 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 da. But anyway, that's kind of not anything to do with what I'm about to say, but I just had to point that out. All throughout the film, there's like this storybook editing of pages turning and stuff. And I said to my mum about halfway through, bloody hell, whoever edited this should be fired. This is rubbish. And then I looked it up about 5 minutes later and I went, it won Best Oscar for editing. So what the hell do I know about film? So
it was the 70s. Give it some slack.
Oh yeah, I should really. But unless anyone else has any thoughts on The Sting, I'll talk about my pa.
I haven't seen it,
unfortunately. Oh, it's a classic.
It wasn't a film I would have watched if my mum hadn't sort of persuaded me to.
But are you glad you watched it?
100%. I need to watch it again. It's on my Icons of the 70s box set, Blu-ray.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I think it's like stylish Hollywood.
It's another like staple of the new Hollywood as well, which as we might know is probably my favourite movement in cinema.
Yeah.
And I will now talk about my dad's film, which is a bit of a change of pace. We're finally moving out of the. Oh no, I was going to say we're finally moving out of the 60s and 70s, but we've already been there because we've been to the 2000s. We're going to the 90s now, basically. Is what I'm trying to say. For what for many people is Spielberg's magnum opus, which is of course Shaving Ryan's Privates, right?
Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan.
That is the most.
Was that really in the 90s?
98.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was much later than that.
Yeah, no, it's which I think is a testament to how it is a very modern film. It still looks quite modern as well.
Yeah,
A
no, it
lot of
really
that-
does.
A lot of
I'm
that
shocked.
handheld, yeah, no, it does look good to this day. A lot of handheld camera movement, which I
Yeah.
think documentary style, that's makes a big difference. In case you've been living under a rock or on the moon or something, or in a cult maybe, Saving Private Ryan. It starts off on D-Day from the point of view of Tom Hanks, Captain Miller, who gets given a mission to save Private Ryan, not shave Ryan's privates. And he goes and does it, basically. Ryan's Matt Damon. Tom Sizemore's in this before he hit the prostitute and got arrested.
That's it. Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel's in it.
Is he?
Yeah, Vin Diesel's in it.
Giovanna Ribisi.
Oh yeah,
Adam,
yeah, yeah,
Adam
yeah.
Goldman.
Huh?
Is that his name?
Yes, yeah. From Dazed and Confused. Yes,
Yeah.
right.
Nathan Fillion's in it for a little bit.
Nathan Fillion, Barry Pepper.
Harry
What
Potter.
name?
Barry, he's the sniper in it. Who's,
Oh right. Oh.
yeah.
My Lord, is my Jesus, that guy.
Yeah.
They've always got to have one overtly religious character in a Spielberg film.
I think he started. I thought you were going to say war film, sorry, but yeah, there's so many characters since then, which is him from that film. But yeah, it's well known, particularly for the first 20 minutes, the opening beach scene, which I think took war films in a much more visceral, graphic direction than had been.
Yeah.
I'll read you. Go on, Emma.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Saving Private Ryan has a especially gory sort of intro. And I think Spielberg is not afraid to show that side of war, is he? Like, he's done that quite a lot. So I think it's important. And it's funny, I actually was on a actor's Facebook page the other day, and someone posted a screenshot of a casting call, and they were saying, oh, I'm offended by it, because it was basically calling for someone to be a gas chamber victim. And they were really upset by that because they thought that's so wrong, blah, 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 blah. But then someone in the comments raised a really important point. They were like, but if we don't get people to act this, how are we supposed to tell the stories of what happened to the people?
I completely agree with that. Ironically, having just been to Berlin last week, which is a city that's very unafraid to say, hey,
we messed up.
Come and see what happened.
Yeah.
I think that's the attitude we need to take. If you bury these things or make it taboo and people don't talk about it, it gets forgotten, and that's a disservice to the people who died and suffered, and also it means it's more likely to happen again if you don't see the best of it. So I can see why that person would say, like, oh, this is. It's probably not a comfortable role to portray.
No, definitely.
Right. I think those stories should be told.
And it's like Boy in the Striped Pajamas happens in there.
This list probably.
Almost in Schindler's List, I think.
But
the funny thing, there is a funny bit of it. Basically, most of the comments on the post were, I'd be more offended by the pay they're offering.
That's so true.
Do you remember Band of Brothers when they all have those the bit where they when they go to Auschwitz or one of the liberate one of the I've always wondered, how do they get the actors looking like that?
Yeah, that's very true. No, that's very true. Yeah, that episode
was a bit random and a bit of a tangent, but
yes,
it popped into my head.
The episode's called "Why We Fight," based on the because in the here's a fun fact: in the 1940s, the American propaganda series directed by Frank Capra was called "Why We Fight," which helped get them into the war and stuff and get the war off again. Yeah, a bit of a tangent there, but all very, very integral stuff. I'll tell you what my dad said. He said a little bit more than my mum. I think they've both been drinking, by the way, so I do apologise. Saving Private Ryan was the first film I believed really showed the reality of D-Day in all its gory details. Very realistic and uncompromising, particularly in the first 20 minutes of the film. The overall visceral reality of the film, the sheer quality of the production, and the moral dilemmas the Allies faced from landing on the beach to the end of the film, oh, use some punctuation, man, again show the reality of war. The overall production, it's quite stunning, and although there can be criticisms of the remainder of the film, it does justice, in my opinion, to the soldiers who went through that period. Not an anti-war film, but not pro-war either, which still shows patriotism in US style without being over the top. Hope this helped. Love, Dad. Which is very nice.
It's interesting. He touched upon the whole America propaganda.
I think it's a really interesting point, isn't it? Because it's funny because I'm sure it might have even been Spielberg. Some director definitely said all war films are anti-war films, but yeah, there's definitely times in Private Ryan when it's definitely pro the men, isn't it? Which is, I don't know if that's pro-war as such, but yeah, no, he raises a good point. I think there is a lot politically going on in Saving Private Ryan. Ironically, I don't really like it as a film. I like the first 20 minutes because I think it's pure cinema, but I don't rate the story as high. I've not seen it in a long time. I really need to rewatch it. But I 100% agree with Dad likes. You can't argue with the production value. I think it did take war films to a more visceral approach that is very important. But yeah, any thoughts from you?
So I know that you and your dad sit and you watch quite a lot of films together. So I was a bit shocked that it was like an American Hollywood film that he picked over like, I know you guys watch a lot of foreign cinema, and I know even you said you were a bit surprised. So what did you think that he might have picked?
I was almost certain. If you had said what was he going to pick, I would have said definitely he will either pick Terminator 2, Predator, or Aliens. And the fact he didn't pick any of those three shook me to my core.
There's a common theme there, very action orientated.
80s action, well, Terminator 2 is 90s, I know, but like 80s action franchise blockbuster films. So this isn't a million miles off from that, but I guess the other, I've shown him a lot of films that he really likes too. Like, just as easily, I guess, Once Upon a Time in the West could have been on that list. 2001: Space Odyssey, but which are my two favourite films. But I think thematically, there's probably more going on in Private Ryan, which is probably why it had the edge.
Yeah.
For it. He's obsessed with World War II as well.
At the end of the day, going and saying, "Look, give me a favourite film," is a really hard question.
God,
and I think people underestimate how hard the question actually is. I mean, we all watch a lot of films. We've studied a lot of films. We've written about loads of films. So to say what's your favourite film is a really difficult question.
Well,
yeah.
So what's your favourite meal?
I think my dad turned around. He said, I can't answer that. There's different films for different moods and different reasons.
Yeah, what's your favourite record? You can't say that, can you?
What's a record, Noah?
Favourite album, sorry.
Sorry, that's harsh.
Was it?
Do you want to know what I prefer?
Yeah, I think we know.
I've basically given it away by saying I really like Saving Private Ryan. Yeah, I prefer The Sting. Doesn't matter really.
But would that be something that's a common theme throughout? Like, if your parents was choose another film, or is it just a one-off?
That is a really, really good question. On balance, my parents have very different tastes in films with some overlap, but I like both of their tastes of films probably equally. Yeah. I watch more films with my dad. That's more of my dad can stay up past 8 while my mum's usually asleep by then sort of thing. I watch most of the Marvel films I go see with my mum at the cinema, but I would actually say, is this hard? My mum generally likes better quality stuff. My dad has kind of a low benchmark for films. Like, he watched the first Suicide Squad, was like, oh, that was alright. No, it wasn't. Fury is one of his favourite films, which I flipping detest.
It's also David Ayer, isn't it?
Yeah.
I saw that in the cinema with my father.
Yeah, I did.
Segue.
I did too. Yes. To answer your question very quickly, not really. I like both their films. I think because my mum likes more 70s films, which is my favourite decade, I really like that. My dad likes a lot of 80s action films, which I also really like.
All right. I think Noah's ready to tell us all on his parents.
That's a good segue there, Jimmy.
Take it away, Sean.
Right. So we're going to talk about me and my family.
Your heritage.
We'll start with Mummy Harvey. So my mum loves films.
Oh.
Yeah, she does. She loves films. Both my parents do, but Mum in particular is a big fan of the old stiff upper lip 1940s David Lean stuff. That's like her
legend.
Yeah, that's like her thing. David Lean films, 40s, 50s. Maybe a bit of America you can chuck in, like the Marilyn Monroe kind of stuff, maybe.
Classic cinema.
Yeah. Her favourite film of all time is Brief Encounter. However, we've sort of spoken about that, and I thought we'd go for something different. Yeah, Emma didn't like it. Everyone else loved it.
No, I just thought it. No, James didn't like it either.
Well, no, I did not like it. I just thought.
Apparently, only I loved it.
James didn't like it. I like. It was one of my favourite films.
You get the idea of what she likes, but for this, she's gone with Pleasantville, which is the 1990s film, directed by some bloke called Gary Ross, whose other notable works include The Hunger Games, Seabiscuit, Ocean's 8 that came out the other year.
Oh, no.
So he's still recent then.
Yeah, he's still going. He's still hanging on. He's still hanging on to that career.
Yeah.
But what's it about? So it's about these two twins, played by
Spider-Man.
bloody hell, what's his name?
Tobey
Maguire. He's a bit of a geeky character. And Reese Witherspoon. Reese Witherspoon is his twin sister, David and Jennifer. And they get sucked into a television, and they go into a black and white world, and it's a 1950s sitcom called Pleasantville. And over the course of the plot, you see that the characters in it, because of their modern attitudes that the Reese Witherspoon and Tobey Maguire bring in, they start to colorize over time, and it's really nice, la-di-da-di-da. Some of the school kids start having sex, and they turn into color. But then you get the whole difference between colours versus black and whites, and you get like a little comment on the segregation era of America. But anywho, so yeah, she really likes this film.
Can I say one thing about the plot of that film that doesn't hold up for me?
Okay. What, the fact they go into a TV?
No, I was going to say in what planet is Reese Witherspoon and Tobey Maguire
twins?
Yeah, good point.
I don't know. I believed it. I think it was okay.
Yeah,
and they do not look.
They're not actually related in real life.
Yeah, but
no. Reese called acting.
Yeah, but you can't act. How physically different. Like Reese Witherspoon, supermodel. Tobey Maguire, not so much.
My mum loves this film. I think the main reasons being it just makes her happy. It's like her favourite era, like that old sort of American 1950s.
Nostalgia.
Yeah. Nostalgic, yeah. It's like nostalgic era of like the 50s when everything was simple and everyone was happy despite all the bad things in the world. But like, it gets like yeah, that's all I think she really has to say. It's just one of those films that you can just sit back and enjoy at any moment in your life. And it just really appeals to her in that case. She likes lots of films though, not just like the 50s, 40s, whatever. We could watch Eraserhead together. I reckon she wouldn't mind. She might have seen it actually. I don't know. Yeah, we could watch. Maybe not Cannibal Holocaust or anything like that. There's a line.
What about Possession?
Oh God, I don't know.
I think like I can definitely relate to her because Pleasantville is such an easy watch. It's one of those films. It's a nice film. It's just lovely, isn't it?
It's harmless.
And there's so many, like there's some social commentary going on, but there's some nice cinematography, some like good acting. I absolutely adore Reese Witherspoon. Reese Witherspoon. I absolutely adore Reese Witherspoon.
William H. Macy in it. Everyone loves him.
Yeah, it's just such a nice watch. So I think that's a really good
Daniel.
pick.
On the Bailey side of the family, you've got my dad, and he likes something a bit different. He loves, again, it's mostly dad films, he'll love his action, he'll love his sci-fi. Grew up watching lots of films when I shouldn't have watched with him. I think Aliens, I remember watching that really young with him.
Nice.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And he's picked the 1982 masterpiece, Blade Runner. Well, we all know Blade Runner to bits. So it's Ridley Scott. It's one of the. It's about it's about Deckard, played by our boy Harrison Ford, set in 2019 Los Angeles, and we're living in a world where replicants are a thing, and they are doing their thing, and they've all come out and they're all trying to find their master who created them and put an end to him, la-di-da-di-da, and it's all about what does it mean to be human, what does it mean, what is existence. Yeah, we all know it.
Do the speech.
We haven't got all day.
Just say the first line.
I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. And that's Rutger Hauer, who died a few years ago, sadly.
And there's some doves at some point in that film.
You know the funny story now about with the doves when they were filming it?
I'm sure you're going to tell us.
Very, very quickly, I'll just tell you. When he died, Rutger Hauer let go, and the doves went to flap off into the glory. Well, because it had so much water on it, it just sort of like jumped out of his hand and walked off like that. They had to film it again. They had to like brush it and film it again.
Well, there you go. So my dad had picked this film. I mean, he must have been 12 when it came out. I did ask him when he first saw it, but I didn't really answer that bit. But he didn't see it in the cinema, but he must have seen it at some point in the 80s. I reckon.
Which cut?
Probably just the theatrical cut.
I don't know.
Theatrical, yeah.
I would imagine theatrical.
Yeah, and obviously there's many different versions now. And I think he obviously loves the final cut. One of the main reasons he loves it is it's so ahead of its time. He said he can't, like watching that back in the day, you'd be like, what on earth? This is like nothing I've ever seen before. He loves the cinematography, he loves the world building, he loves the soundtrack. He just gets so immersed in it. He just said he can just sit there and he just finds himself entering the world. He's not too fussed about Harrison Ford. I did say that to him, I thought, because obviously growing up watching the films he did, Harrison Ford would have been everywhere in Star Wars, Indiana Jones, this, but he's not fussed about him. Couldn't care less. He just cares more about the story and the world building, which was nice thing to hear. I think he, in regards to the sequel, I think he likes, but not as much as the original.
That's correct.
Fair enough, obviously.
I think most people that way.
Yeah, James.
I like the sequel just as much.
I don't like either, so
keep quiet on this one.
James prefers the sequel because he's wrong.
He's allowed his opinion, all right?
Thank you.
Yes, they're both equally as beautiful as each other.
Oh.
But yes, he says to me, it's quite good if you whack your headphones on and listen to it, and you can get lost in the music and all the sounds of all the rainfall. I think that's covered all the bases. He's a man of few words, but he explained his emotions very well. I think my mum is a fan as well, but not as much as my dad. I'm sure some of our parents might have watched it and might like it. Why don't you like it, Emma? Actually, good question.
Emma doesn't like it.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no, we did know this. This came out in the 80s, Joe.
I didn't think it was. Let me say that again. I didn't think it was a bad film. I don't know. It didn't really connect with me. I just found it a little bit too long.
It's not. It is very slow. Also, on repeated watches, you do notice how long.
Yeah. So for me, it was one of those films where you're looking at the time and you think, God, it's only been like half an hour. It's still got so much long time to go.
20 past midnight.
I enjoyed the ending. I quite like that, like the ending scenes. But middle, it dragged for me. But so I know that my opinion is not a very popular opinion, because I know that a lot of people love the film. It just doesn't connect with me. I really love the ending scenes and like the end, but I just found like the middle just dragged a little bit too much.
That's fair.
Hey, we love an unpopular opinion here on. I hate Shawshank Redemption. Like
everyone likes an unpopular opinion unless it's James's.
I hate
you. Got you there.
Oh, the question to you, Noah, then, as with everyone else, who's are you going to sit down and watch?
Mum or Dad? Who do you?
Yeah.
If Dad's picking Blade Runner, then I'll watch that.
And what about in general? If it was
that is really hard because you could easily because they're both really good films. I don't think I'd watch maybe like a. Right, hang on, what have I got there? I don't think I'd watch La La Land with my dad, but I might watch it with my mum. But then I could watch A Bridge Too Far with my dad, but then I could watch it with my mum as well.
For you, is it more about like the experience and like the bonding with your mum and your dad rather than the actual film?
Yeah, there's a bit of bond. Yeah, there's a bit of bonding.
Do we think then that all our tastes are a mix of our mum and our dad? That seems to be the prevailing thing.
Yeah, it seems to be that's like none of us have gone more on one side than the other necessarily.
Yeah, I think that too. This might be really stupid. Should we all say who, based on all our parents' picks, somebody else who isn't us? Should we say if there's anybody's mum or dad we'd like to watch a film with? Does that make any sense?
What?
So, based off of what we've all said, I think I would like a lot of films that Noah's mum likes. So I'd like, if I had to pick one of your parents to pick a film for me to watch, I'd pick Noah's mum to pick for me to watch. Yeah. I love all that classic stuff.
I think I would like Noah's mum's picks as well.
Really?
Yeah, if I couldn't pick my own lovely parent, I would probably pick Noah's mum.
James?
I don't like picking favourites. I'll watch any film with any of your parents.
If you had to pick one of our parents to recommend you a film.
No.
Come on.
And on that note,
I'll do it. And then James can have a think. Probably my mum.
No, you can't pick your own parents.
Maybe James's dad or Jimmy's mum. I think it's a bit random, but I think James's dad could recommend some good stuff, and then Jimmy's mum seems like she knows a thing.
I think
like a good laugh, doesn't she?
I think we should get all our dads to get at the pub and talk about films together, and all our mums to also get at probably a different pub and talk about
maybe a bar for the mum.
Same pub but just a table over.
Yeah, two pubs on the same street facing opposite each other, and us sat in the middle of the road watching between the two.
It's just us in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
Holding up traffic.
On that note.
And on that note, exactly, yeah, we have been 4 struggling filmmakers. You guys continue to stay safe. We are going to continue to struggle and apparently stand in the middle of a road between 2 pubs. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Hello, sunshines.